Hello, everyone. This is Oakwalker again. I'm back with you with my friend and ally, Frank Stronghorse, and we are here to do the podcast called Earth Medicine for the Soul. It's two old geezers shooting the shit about shamanism, and we're enjoying the process, and we hope that there's value in it for you too. So here we go. What do we have today, Frank?
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the Great Shift that I think has been
Mhm.
labeled that. But I think Greg Braden once came up
Uh-huh.
with that. Anyway, or he talks about it in his books. And purportedly, this is a prophecy that's been handed down through the ages. You know, it's a indigenous prophecy, and don't know where it originated. I don't think subscribed to by any particular tribe or culture, but it's been talked about in petroglyphs and in a lot of different traditional stories, oral stories. So they talk about there's a time when the Earth is going to shift polarities or shift into something, a whole new phase, a whole new
Mhm.
status. And
Yeah.
so, the elders I work with, or that you and I work with now, the Divine Light Order of Melchizedek, and they started talking about to me about this actually before I met you, and that was back around like 2010, something
Hmm.
like that. And they said that the planet was going to separate into two conditions, I guess would be the word to use. And I was just like, okay, well, whatever. I wasn't particularly motivated to go out and start telling people that story. you know, I got enough trouble with just the standard stuff.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Prophecy's always
so
so iffy.
yeah. So, but lately there's things, if you look on Facebook and some of the reels and the shorts and different spiritual teachers and psychics, etc., they're all now starting to talk about this, and they frame it in the same thing about the earth is going to separate. And so this is creating a lot of concern in the minds of people that are listening to this, like, well, what do I do? I mean, can I bring my family? I mean, how's this going to work? And so there's a lot of speculation on what this is going to look like.
Hmm.
And I never really could get my head wrapped around the mechanics of this thing. I mean, I is it going to be like the Christians say, where the rapture comes and all certain people go poof?
Yeah.
You know,
Cars
or
crashing everywhere.
how exactly how's this gonna go, and how do you qualify and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot to cover, man. There really is, and I think that right at this point it's probably a lot of speculation, but I would rather
Hmm.
speculate and lay some stuff out there in terms of what I've seen in my dreaming,
Yeah.
to share with people. And then, I mean, I think it's going to be an event that is so spectacular that nobody really can wrap their head around precisely what it's going to be. But I think that, as you and I start tiptoeing around some of these off the wall shamanic traditions and stories and part of what we're trying to do here is be informative. And
Hmm.
so the thing I want to pass along, which came to me, which actually was the first thing that made any sense to me at all, is in some dreaming I was doing the other day, they actually pointed out to me a couple of instances where I had previously had experience in my fifth dimension work that illustrated how this was going to progress. And they talked about first thing they pointed out was my very first workshop with Swifter. And when I came out of the workshop, I received what's called the knock of the spirit. And this voice said very clearly, "You have found that which you've been searching for." And I really my rational mind hadn't really been searching for anything. I wasn't spiritually inclined to any great degree. I read some books and I was kind of curious, but I certainly wasn't engaged at all. I was basically a real estate broker, and that was about the extent of it. But that hit me right in my heart, you know,
Hmm.
and it just was so clear and it was so right on. And I just broke down crying, and I'm crying all the way up 35 from Waxahachie, thinking, "Oh
Yeah.
dear God, please don't die." you know, what's going on? And I walk into this apartment that where my girlfriend was at the time, and she thought I'd gone off to join a cult, and so then when I come walking through the door with tears flowing down, which she'd never seen me cry before, she's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" And I said, "Absolutely nothing. Everything is perfect." And so the point there was that she could see me, and I was just as she knew me, but I was in a whole nother world, man. I
Hmm.
mean, a whole nother world. And so I was in fifth dimension, yet I was in a third dimension also.
Hmm.
So they'll just point that out to me. They said there's a time when you were actually in both dimensions. And then there was another time where I was out in Gold Creek Ranch, which is where we sundanced in the mountains above Los Angeles. And I think it was on a 2 or 3 day ceremony, something like that. And I've been out there quite a while. I remember, so I was way, way into the fifth dimension. I mean, and really, really digging it because I've been there for quite a long period of time. And then, for some bizarre reason, this friend of mine, Kevin, who was about 6'3", 250 pounds, comes lumbering up the road, and because he drove out there, he wanted to talk to me about something. And I'm like, Kevin, I'm in ceremony, man. No, I don't want to talk to you. What are you doing here? Oh, it's just really important. I said, no, it's not important. So the point there was I did not want to go back into third dimension. He was
Hmm.
asking me to drop out of fifth, come back
Yeah.
into third, talk to him. I didn't want to do that. And so those two things were pointed out to me in this dream sequence because I think it's going to be indicative of how people are going to handle this transition and how this is going to work, the mechanics of it. And it seems to me that I think that people are going to have momentary flashes of fifth dimension
Mm.
to begin with.
Hmm.
There'll be instances where they just sort of, and I think you and I talked about this recently about where we had this. There were some moments when everything just sort of like got very clear
Hmm. Things
for
click.
us, and just then it was gone. Exactly. So I think people have moments of that, and then as they begin to adjust to that, they'll have minutes, and as they adjust to that, they'll have hours, and then they're going to
Hmm.
have days, and then they're going to have weeks, and at some point, I think some of us will go, I don't want to go back.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to go back to third dimension.
Yeah.
I like it here in fifth dimension. And
Yeah.
that fifth dimension is the new world. So does that mean they're going to physically disappear? I don't know. If I was a betting man, I'd say, yeah, they probably will. But I think that those who are acclimated or have the coding in their DNA or have done the work or all of the above, I think that they're going to be the ones who experience this more profoundly than others. And
Yeah.
I think there will be those who move back and forth between third dimension and fifth dimension, and they'll be like the Bridgers or the ambassadors from fifth dimension
Uh-huh.
that are coming back into third and sharing with the people there that want to know what's going on and explain to them, you can shift also, but here's kind of what you need to do. So
Uh-huh.
uh, that's a lot. I'm talking about a lot in a short period of time there, but that just to me that seems to be the mechanics that are going to be involved in this thing.
Yes.
What do
The
you think?
the so what's important is when we're in that fifth dimensional state, it's not like the world turns into another planet. Although I can say that it seems to me that I can see the light of glowing out of things when I'm in that state, but it's the same world basically. I'm just seeing a much broader expression of it, or a bigger part of a bigger part of creation, if you will. You know, like when we do medicine journeys, such as with plants or with um, we use a lot in the Pachacuti tradition. We use San Pedro cactus, and it's a plant medicine that breaks breaks you free of that egocentric mind. And when you
Right.
get into that, and that's that fifth dimensional state, right? Because it's that egocentric mind that's keeping you tied down into that lower consciousness reality that is what we're calling the three-dimensional state, right? It's all this,
Right.
it's all the old world with all its pain and all its heartache, and it's all just happening out there. And when I'm in that fifth dimensional state, my consciousness is vastly expanded, but it's not like the world disappears and I'm on some, farscape, space asteroid somewhere where everything's different. It's just that everything is way more enhanced. And the grass seems to be glowing and everything seems to be um, an actual vital expression of the creative force that put it there to begin with. I think that this shift is coming for everybody, but I don't know that it's going to be like everybody's now off. I think that it's a personal shift and that it's happening now. I think we're in the middle of it. And I think that people are going to start ratcheting up, just as you said. They're going to be there for a little while, and then a little more while, and then a little more while, until they're spending most of the time in that state. But I think it's more of a state change than it is the world break crashes down into a singularity and a new one pops up in its place and it looks completely different. I think it's going to look a heck of a lot like where we are now. I've actually
Have
heard.
you,
Mhm. Go ahead.
have you ever had any teachings on the twin flame?
Oh, that sounds familiar. Go remind me.
Well, the twin flame is if you meet your twin flame, then that person usually has a very much of the similar type of
Yeah,
coding on a
kind
soul
of like
level. You know,
yeah,
you're
kind of like soulmate.
yeah, almost like a perfect mirror to you. You
Yeah.
know, so I want to share with you because I like trying to make sure that these assumptions and these discussions come more from personal experience than they do me sitting around thinking about weird shit. You know.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you a story about Joshua Tree. Have you ever been to Joshua Tree or
Oh,
heard about it?
yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
So so it's known as having vortexes out there. You know,
Hmm.
people have like woken up some like 20 miles away from where they were started. I mean, they just, I mean, it's just magical, magical place. So I was out on ceremony in Joshua Tree one night, and when I completed the ceremony, I headed back to where I thought camp was. And I was way out in fifth dimension. So, for me to try to figure out what direction to go and to actually walk, it was a bit of a chore. But I ended up finding the road. And and then I remember seeing a sign, and I can't remember what the sign said, Indian Wells, 10 miles or
Uh-huh.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, about 10 minutes later, I was in camp and I just crawled in my tent and went to sleep. So the next day, we had to go in town to do something, and so we're driving back to the campsite, right? And we hit that sign, Indian Wells 10 miles, and I was like, oh yeah, camp will be right around the corner. 30 minutes later, we drove into camp, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, what happened?
Yeah,
I mean, there was no, I couldn't explain it. I mean, there was no way that I could have walked that length of time in 10 minutes. No way,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and but apparently I did. So I had stepped out of one time zone into
yeah,
another, and not had any conscious awareness of what was going on at the time.
yeah,
So I bring that up in this discussion because, when you start dealing with these dimensions and time, space, and all, things start getting a little outside the guardrails,
hmm,
and so, I think there may be some time traveling going on when this happens. And I
yeah,
think, you know, people are going to have to become conditioned to be comfortable in that transition, which trust me will not happen the first time.
yes,
Not gonna happen. The first time you'd be like, dear God, what's going on? But I think that we're gonna start. I think we'll be seeing or experiencing or hearing stories of people waking up miles from where they thought they were.
yeah. And and I do believe that as more and more and more of us move through this process, uh, let's just give it a name, awakening or an expansion. Um, Actually, my mentor Oscar, he thinks of it as evolving into a species called Homo angelicus, in which we have so much more angelic properties about us. And angels are known for being transdimensional, right? They come down from heaven. They are these messengers that seem to appear out of nowhere. In one of the books I started when I was just getting started, the Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. They were up in India talking to Jesus all the time, and he'd just like pop into a new body, and he says, "Oh yeah, when you guys get this down, this is how it works. When you need a body, you get one. You just build it. There it is." And so people are going to need to become comfortable with a reality that isn't quite so cut and dried. It isn't a reality that doesn't feel quite as solid as the one that we're used to experiencing in that 3D world that we have. We want to believe that there are only matter is matter, and that's all there is to it, and only matter matters, and that this reality is a stayed thing that cannot be changed. And that isn't actually true. And the mental component of what reality is as we go through this transition is going to become more and more and more prevalent. And that means that reality is going to start to feel a little bit rubber for people. And that's what they're going to have to start to get a little bit more comfortable with, and accepting of the fact that, you can lose time, you can lose space, and that these things do happen, you know. um, Science has always been trying to catch up with these kind of phenomena, right? Because that's what science is. You observe phenomena, you think about what it might mean, you make a hypothesis, you do experimentation. If you can repeat the experimentations, it means that you've found a repeatable reality. Um, that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to have. Science is very, very important, but it's always going to be playing catch up with the way the universe actually works, because the whole point of science was only to figure out how God did it, or what God did, in a sense. And so that it's always going to be sucking the hind tit there.
You know, I'm sitting there thinking I made a comment too the other day. I was listening to some comedian or somewhere, and he said, how you figure out who the stupid people are? They're the ones that got everything figured out.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
a lot of truth to that. And so I was sitting there thinking, the Mike Johnsons of the world, when this
Hmm.
time lapse starts happening, I mean, you think about it, all of their arguments going to go right out the window.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, gone, gone, and,
Yeah.
and and then they're going to be like, and now what? And and the fact that the time has warped to such a degree that I mean, they're going to be screaming for answers like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And I think that the people like ourselves who've come here and decided to uh, check out the unknown and the unknowable and become a part of it and experience it.
Hmm.
And that includes a lot of people, man. That's a lot of people on this planet that
More
have
and
done
more
that
every
through one
day.
path or another.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they're going to be the Lewis and Clark
Right.
folks. You
Right.
know, they're going to be. They've gone down the river and they've come back, and yeah, you don't need to be afraid, man. It's not it's not a time to freak out. It's going to be great. It's going to be
Yeah.
awesome. You should.
You
I mean,
you
it's a
can go
party over
around the
here. You ought to come
rapids. It's
join
all
us.
right.
Yeah, rapids, man. So I think in some way that's pretty good news. I mean,
Yes, I agree. Um, I have been honored and thrilled in my life to have become one of those people that I feel that I've gone out to the ends of consciousness, and I would like to say I've gone out as far as one can go, which isn't true because people go way farther than I do. But I've gone out as far as I can go, and I've gone out way out there to where things, I don't know how to describe it. It's just an edge of consciousness that's very, very, very broad, and um, it's magical. And I do believe that I don't. mm, Somewhere in there is my purpose, and I might be one of those bridge builders that you were talking about, because I do know that I've often felt strongly compelled to try and communicate these ideas to people. It's very disappointing when I discover that they're not the least bit interested.
right. Yeah, well, if we're right about what we're discussing, they're fixing to get real interested.
Yeah. Yeah, because things are
You
going to
know,
start falling apart.
when
The old
when time
structures
starts
can't hold
warping, they're
up.
gonna be like, okay, anybody
Yeah,
know any?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
it,
and
go ahead.
no, I just think that's I think there's a lot of hope involved in that because you just said something very important, and that science is trying to basically figure it out how God did it the way He
Yeah.
did it, and this is really in the core of that, man, really
Uh-huh.
in the core of it because now we're coming out of, well, that's sort of an abstract thing that those other guys talk about, and I don't quite get it. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I saw a guy on I guess Joe Rogan the other day, and he was talking about AI, and he was like, "Well, I think we invented AI because there's obviously not a God, so we needed to have an all-knowing being, and that's gonna fulfill the God role for humanity." And I was thinking, "Oh man, dude, you're gonna really have a problem.
Right.
It's
Because
it's gonna
AI is
really
trying to
rock your
catch up with the
world,
guys
man."
trying to catch up.
Yeah. So I think that when we talked about this also about how we're coming out of dependency on historical text or other beings to telling us what it is we should or shouldn't be and do to be
Hmm.
able to get into heaven or whatever, however you
Yeah.
want to frame that, to direct connection with source,
Yeah.
and for that, I mean, you got to be able to understand one basic dynamic, and that is God is a multi-dimensional being that
Yep.
is active in all dimensions simultaneously.
All the time. Yeah.
So
He
when we start
encapsulates
moving
them,
into
right?
yeah, so when we start moving into that, you're moving into playground as it is going on,
Yeah,
as it is creating, as it is happening. So
exactly.
I mean, for me, that's just wow, you
And
know.
that's the thing is that we call it a creator because it is creating, it's constantly creating. Creation doesn't just stop because we've decided to sit down for a second and observe it. It's constantly and dynamically always going on. So, and why did I say that? It's because we're really teasing around this idea that reality you, is never what it just was a second ago, you know? It's constantly changing. And that's the thing that we need to grow comfortable with. That and the fact that once you know that it's this hugely multidimensional environment, that your influence upon it actually causes and affects change. And that's where the magic part comes in.
Absolutely,
And it's a
absolutely,
huge responsibility. This is the key because it is such a responsibility that the creator is saying, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I have set things up such that whatever you do is going to have consequences. And if you didn't like the consequences, it's up to you to figure out not to do that, you know?
that's
And
perfect.
and
Yeah, perfect.
this is I read once in some channeling somewhere that is the highest expression of love is to let you go out there and fuck it up as bad as you possibly can
Absolutely. No,
and learn from
absolutely.
that,
That
you know?
that I had a grandmother tell us one time, from a Navajo grandmother. She said that the greatest love you can have is to have a partnership with another person that allow them to do their soul work unimpeded.
Exactly. That's well put.
And I really thought that was, yeah, I really thought, I think I better remember that because I'm probably not good at it.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Because I don't think if you went back and checked in with some of my exes, they'd be like, yeah, he wasn't really doing that much. so, so that's which is, and when you step into that, man, you really step into judgment.
Yeah,
I mean, people judging you right and left because
yep,
because that is so outside the norm. You
yeah.
know,
Because
most
when you stop
most people are
judging,
like, oh, my whole job is to straighten this person out.
exactly. And I've never
you
had
know,
such peace. The more non-judgmental I become, the more peaceful I become because
yeah,
it's not up to
yeah.
me.
Well, and also, I think it's really important for us to understand that I think the ultimate goal here is co-creation with the creator. I
Yep.
mean, that I think is like at the end of the day, that's where we're trying to get. And I'm talking about co-creation on a spirit with spirit.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about what does Frank or Oakwalker do, to
Yeah.
with God on a daily basis,
We'll
or
get to
how's your
that later.
morality or this or that. I'm talking about where you are able to consciously be so connected into your own spirit self
Yeah.
that when you're in that dimension, like multi-dimensional space with the creator, you're consciously able to control the dream to such a degree that you
Yes.
co-create with the creator. And,
Yep.
and that's, I think, that I think is the whole point of having this planet here. Honestly,
Yeah. Yeah. So that we can
we're
add
trying to
our energy
understand.
to the expansion of the whole. That's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Spirit to substance and substance to spirit, man.
Bingo.
And yeah, we hit on that, then. So I think I think we're just kind of coming to the point where the people that know that understand to forget about to what degree they understand it,
Right.
even if they have a glimpse of it, that this shift is open, bringing forth the whole, like, okay, this is it, let's go,
Yep.
let's make it happen, and it's not some fairy tale or some abstract story somewhere. It's happening right out your front door,
Yep. And
which is
everywhere you
exciting.
go, it's
And
wonderful
everywhere you
and
go.
beautiful. And it's an excellent place for us to close out on those wonderful concepts. This is exciting because we really got to a good place on this particular podcast, but we got to go because the timer is telling us
Okay.
so. And so thank you everybody for tuning in with us. We really are having fun with this and a wonderful time. I hope it adds value to your journey as well. You can find us on earth-ems.org, and we would love to share with you as much as we possibly can from there. Thank you very much.
I hope.
I hope.